Men of understanding are required with God's forces.
Exploring the lives of a Persian king.
And the Rips-Whitson experiment.
All right, this and more, plus other stuff, coming up next on Quick Study Television Bible Discovery TV. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Rod Hembry.
I'm Corey.
And I'm Ryan.
This is Quick Study Television Weekend Edition. It is a good program taking you through the Bible. Now today we land at a very interesting passage of Scripture, Ezra 7 and 8, where we will discover men of understanding are required to get it together with God's forces. And what does that mean? Well, Ezra looked for men, and we're going to talk about that coming up in just a moment. But right now, Corey is here to tell us what she's talking about today. Corey?
Well, we're looking at a couple things. First, one of the Persian capital cities during the lifetime of Ezra, and also some extra biblical details about some of the kings of Persia.
All right, good, excellent job. And now here is the science guy, Ryan Hembry.
Well, on last weekend's program, I reported on the Bible codes, and today, in continuation of that, we're going to be delving in even deeper. Today, we're talking about the Rips-Whitson experiment.
All right, very good. Listen, I want to tell you, it's a good program. Stay there. Let's go.
We are studying in the time of Scripture when the Persian Empire had dominance in the ancient Middle East. So because of that, I want to focus our studies today in history on one of the capital cities of the Persian Empire during the time of Esther, Ezra, and Nehemiah. The city of Susa was chosen to become the winter capital of the Persian Empire by King Darius the Great. Darius ruled only 8 years after Cyrus the Great, with the 8-year interim being filled by Cyrus's son. Darius ruled for 36 years and established 3 capital cities with royal palaces. He began the famous Greek wars that would be continued by his son, Xerxes, of the Book of Esther. And he had interaction with the people of Judea. The book of Ezra, chapters 4 through 6, record how Darius honored the decree of Cyrus to allow the people to rebuild the Jerusalem temple. The historical setting for the book of Esther is the royal palace at Susa built by Darius, and the book of Nehemiah begins also in the palace complex of Susa. The ruins of Susa's palace have been excavated. Findings conclude that it was built on top of the ruins of the old temple district. This new royal district had a massive gatehouse, a pavilion, an audience hall, and, of course, a large palace covering 38,000 square meters. A defining feature of the palace was uncovered fallen in a courtyard by its entrance, glazed brick reliefs. Patterns of warriors, archers, animals, and tribute were immortalized on this brick palace, along with bricks inscribed with Darius's name and passages attesting to his greatness. There was a 9-meter wide wall that surrounded the entire complex and was also decorated with brick reliefs. Along with the audience hall that would have seen Esther as she waited to risk her life before the king, Elamite texts have been found that describe Susa as a city of textile production, trading and selling beautifully complex tapestries. In Esther chapter 1, it's recorded that in the now excavated courtyards of the palace were hung extravagant decorative linen tapestries.
The collection of the Levites was an important part of the temple in the time of exile's return. Now, the Levites were not ready for their work in the temple. They had to be gathered, they had to be recruited, and Ezra was involved in this process. Most of them were called servants of the temple. This is an important detail. It is critical for us to notice. We need to understand why God demanded it. You see, only the Levites were designed to work of the temple. Only the Levites could work in the proximity of God's holy institution. Superheroes know and understand the critical role of those who do not have an inheritance in the land.
Ezra chapter 8, verses 15 through 23. Now I gathered them by the river that flows to Ahava, and we camped there 3 days. And I looked among the people and the priests, and found none of the sons of Levi there. Then I sent for Eliezer, Ariel, Shemaiah, Elnathan, Jerub, Elnathan, Nathan, Zechariah, and Meshullam, leaders. Also for Joiarib and Elnathan, men of understanding. And I gave them a command for Iddo the chief man at the place of Casiphia, and I told them what they should say to Iddo and his brethren the Nethinim at the place of Casiphia, that they should bring us servants for the house of our God. Then, by the good hand of our God upon us, they brought us a man of understanding, of the sons of Malai, the sons of Levi, the son of Israel, namely Sherebiah, with his sons and brothers, 18 men, and Hashabiah, and with him Jeshiah, of the sons of Merari, his brothers and their sons, 20 men. Also of the Nethinim, whom David and the leaders had appointed for the service of the Levites, 220 Nethinim. All of them were designated by name. Then I proclaimed a fast there at the river of Ahava, that we might humble ourselves before our God, to seek from him the right way for us and our little ones and all our possessions. For I was ashamed to request of the king an escort of soldiers and horsemen to help us against the enemy on the road, because we had spoken to the king, saying, "The hand of our God is upon all those for good who seek him, but his power and his wrath are against all those who forsake him." So we fasted and entreated our God for this, and he answered our prayer. Ezra chapter 8, verses 15 through 23.
This is Bible Discovery TV and Quick Study Television, and I want to tell you, we are studying the book of Ezra. Now, Ezra is a very interesting book. It's the time of the return, closer to the end of the exile. And it's interesting because in the first couple of chapters of the book of Ezra, it covers the beginning time, but then it covers more time at the last part of the book. So the book covers quite a bit of time as we consider it and we look at it. Now, today we're going to be exploring Ezra chapter 7 and 8. I call this Strong Men. Strong Men for a very good reason. And we read Ezra chapter 7 and 8. If you read this will be part of your chronological Bible reading today, and I encourage you to do that. And then we're going to focus on Ezra 8, verses 15 to 23. As we study this and as we look at this, we consider what this means about it and what we're talking about. And so let's take a look at the scripture and consider what it's saying. So we come into this with Ezra chapter 15 and 16. Now I gathered them by the river that flows to Ahava, and we camped there 3 days. And I looked along or among the people and the priest, and I found none of the sons of Levi there. Then I sent for Eliezer and Ariel and Shema and Elnathan and Jerub and Elnathan and Nathaniel, Zechariah and Meshullam, the leaders. Also Jehoram and Eliathnan, the men of understanding. Now, here is something very interesting. Ezekiel, or rather Ezra, looks at the men of understanding, or he looks at men and he gathers together key people to understand what he's doing. He says, I have to get specific people. I have to get specific Levites. Very important, because Ezra understands the role of the Levite. That's very important. As we look at it today, we'll discover it. And it means that men of understanding are required when God's special forces are needed to be found. Now, God had put together a restoration package for Israel, but they had somehow forgotten. They had somehow become weary with the work of God's house and the altars and all of that. And so here they are, and he goes after specific people. I find that interesting. Sometimes God goes after you. You're the specific person that God speaks to. You're not just someone who came in and has a little bit over here and a little bit over there. Sometimes God has a specific purpose in your life for you. And I want you to keep that in mind. So as we go on into verse 17, it gets interesting because he says, and I gave them a command for Iddo. He is the chief man at the place of Cassipha. And I told them what they should do to Iddo and his brethren, the Nethinim, and the place of Casphiah. And they should bring us servants for the house of God. Servants for the house of God? He's talking about Levites. He's talking about people to work in the house of God. Now, many times God calls and he asks for us to work in his house a specific thing. I remember one man when I was in St. Louis, Missouri with my grandparents, and he had a job, and God had called him specifically to do a specific ministry in the church in St. Louis. And he really felt serious about it, and he did that ministry, and that ministry was very important in his life. See, God calls you to specific ministry. And we say this, God's men require sacrifice. There will be a cost to the needed change. Now, most people in today's world, what they want to do is they want God to help them, help me get my job, help me do. But what happens when we decide to help God? And that is the key here. The important part is for us to look for ways in which we can help the church help God and work in the church and develop ministries in the church. That is so important in today's word and in today's society where everybody's looking for everything for their own help, but very few people are looking to help God. I want you to think about that and consider it. So let's go on to verse 18 to 20. It says, then by the good of the hand of our God upon us, they brought us a man of understanding. Notice the man of understanding. Of the sons of Malai, and the son Levi, and the son of Israel, namely Sherebiah, with his sons and his brothers, 18 men. And Hashabiah with him, Jeshahiah, and the sons of Meriah, his brothers and their sons, 20 men. Also of the Nethinim, whom David and the leaders had appointed for the service of the Levites, 220 Nethinim. All of them were designated by name. Now, here is something that God puts together. He puts servants in place, and David appoints them. That was way back. And David appoints them, and they had adopted that particular role. And so God used them, and he said, now you're going to do this. And so here Ezra comes to that point. He says, I want you to get those Nethinim. Isn't that interesting? I find that fascinating. Here's the point. God's men are designated by name and will be ready even if they do not know it. I mean, God had chosen these men, and they didn't know it. They were out there doing this or doing that in the exile. And Ezra said, no, I want you to get with your plan. This whole program so far, and if you read in the fourth Bible guide, the fourth point in the Bible guide, then what you'll do is you'll understand the rest of this is all about you going to your church, you going to your place and serving God and giving yourself to God in an aspect. That, beloved, is the most important thing that you could ever do. And again, in today's world, we find a lot of people treating churches like restaurants, going to there only to see what they can get. But it's important that you understand the principle here exposed in Ezra. Consider it today.
In the biblical book of Esther, we have a historical account about King Ahasuerus, also known as Xerxes, king of Persia. But other records from history add more information to his life story. Take a look. To establish the history of the biblical book of Esther, one pivotal person must be examined: Esther's king husband. In the first 2 verses of Esther, Ahasuerus is said to be king of the Persian Empire, having his capital city at Susa and ruling 127 provinces from India in the east to Kush in the southwest. All of these statements are critical to identifying historical Ahasuerus as Xerxes, the 5th king of the United Media Persian Empire. Cyrus the Great was the founder, the first king of this Persian Empire as a world power. He is given historical shoutouts in the books of 2 Chronicles, Ezra, Isaiah, and Daniel. His son, Cambyses II, ruled after him for 8 years, until his untimely death allowed a several-month-long impostor to take the throne. This apparent usurper was finally laid to rest by Cambyses' spear-bearer, the new king, Darius. This Darius changed many things. He divided the empire into satraps and provinces, developed a professional standing army, built a new capital city at Susa, and conquered territory all the way into ancient India. After his death, his son Xerxes takes the throne of a Persian empire that is exactly how Esther describes it. Its territory extended to India and its capital city, Susa. In the book of Daniel, chapter 11, verse 2, written during Cyrus's reign, it is prophesied that Xerxes will be a king that stirs up the empire against Greece. This happened. The ancient historian Herodotus writes much about King Xerxes' wars against Greece. One of the most famous battles in all of history was fought during Xerxes' invasion, the Battle of Thermopylae under Spartan King Leonidas. 300 soldiers fought to the death to delay Xerxes' army.
The most important thing in today's focus is understanding the Bible. The Bible is the key book that transcends countries in the world. It tells us the way in which the world is headed. Quick Study TV is designed to make the book the premier document. We do that through many ways. One of the primary ways is through media. Now, the Bible is a 32-page print companion every month that is unique in presentation. Every guide is original or new. No guide is the same. We recommend that you get a copy of this today. Write to P.O. Box 150, Murrysville, Pennsylvania, 15668-0150. In Canada, write to P.O. Box 456, Orangeville, Ontario, L9W5G2. You can call us on the phone and reserve your copy today. Call 724-733-8336 or 519-940-8338. And remember, you can get a hold of the Bible commentary on the website, BibleDiscoveryTV.com. Thank you for staying with us. My name is Rod Hembry. This is the Bible Discovery television program, and we are looking at Quick Study. We are looking at next time on the Quick Study program. We're going to find out Ezra 9 and 10. Listen, I want to tell you something. Men of God have a special call in their lives to keep others from falling. It's true. Others fall, and men of God are designed and called to keep them from doing that. What does that mean? We'll talk about it next time on Quick Study Television. Right now, Ryan is over there doing something in space. Ryan, what are you doing?
Indeed. Well, last weekend we studied the fascinating encoded messages in the Bible called the Bible codes. And today, in continuation of that, we're going to be delving in even further. So coming up now is something called the Rips-Wittsum experiment. Eliyahu Rips, a Russian mathematician who now resides in Israel, found a code within the Bible that revealed the exact date the Gulf War would begin. What's more, Rips discovered this encoded message 3 weeks before the war even started. The message, which is encoded altogether in Genesis, states Hussein, Scuds, and Russian missile. The code sequence even states Hussein picked a day. Interestingly, it is in Genesis 14 where we read about the warring kingdoms that the date of the war was found. The code states, fire on 3rd Shavat, which translates to January 18, 1991. But who knew 3,000 years ago that there would be a Gulf War and that a missile would be fired on January 18th? For Eli Rips, the answer was easy: God. Eli Rips actually credits Rabbi H.M.D. Westmandel of Prague, Czechoslovakia, for finding the first hint of the encodings many years earlier. Westmandel noticed that if he skipped 50 letters and then another 50 and then another 50, the word Torah was spelled out at the beginning of the book of Genesis, and that the same skip sequence again spelled out the word Torah in the book of Exodus, and in the book of Numbers, and in the book of Deuteronomy. Even the great physicist Sir Isaac Newton attempted to crack the codes in the Bible that he knew existed, but failed to decipher them. Eli Rips, however, along with some others, had done it. This is due to the invention of one tool that Newton did not have: a computer. Apparently, the Bible was encoded with a time lock and could not be opened until the computer was invented. Using the computer, Rips found words encoded far more than statistics allowed for by random chance, and he knew he was onto something of real importance. Rips, however, struggled to find a way to prove this reality until he met an Israeli by the name of Doron Wittsum. Together, Rips and Wittsum developed a sophisticated mathematical model and an experiment that actually confirms that the Old Testament is encoded. This Rips-Wittsum experiment is titled Equidistant Letter Sequences in the Book of Genesis. In this experiment, they searched the Bible codes for the names, births, and deaths of 32 wise men from across history. They also searched for these in the Hebrew translation of War and Peace, and in 2 original Hebrew texts. Yet it was only in the Bible that these men were found, the names and dates together. What are the odds of finding this encoded information by chance? To determine this, Rips took the 32 names with the 64 dates and jumbled them into 10 million different combinations. This means that 9,999,999 were a mismatch. Only one was a correct pairing. He performed a computer run with the 10 million examples, which revealed the fact that they only came together in the Bible. None of the random pairings matched, said Rips. The results were 0 versus 9,999,999, or 1 in 10 million. Rips and Wittsum submitted their experiment to a leading math journal where it was checked by 3 different referees. Mathematicians say that 100 to 1 is beyond chance. Even Harold Gans, a codebreaker for the NSA who tested it using his own 440-hour experiment, stated in his final report that his results provide corroboration of the results reported by Wittsum, Rips, and Rosenberg. Many tried to disprove this experiment or even reveal a hoax, but have not been able to find any fault with it. No one could explain away the fact that the Bible was encoded with information which revealed events that took place after the Bible was written. So there it is, undeniable mathematical proof that the Bible codes actually exist. But don't take my word for it. I encourage you, just like Harold Gans did, to research this for yourself. Now, a couple of resources I would recommend to help you get you started is, first of all, our Bible Codes DVD, which you can order from us, and second, a book called The Mysterious Bible Codes by the late Dr. Grant Jeffrey. It is really fascinating stuff.
Now, The Late Bible Codes, a very interesting book. Dr. Grant Jeffrey, the late Dr. Grant Jeffrey, I ate with, and he was a friend, and I sat there with him, and we were discussing the Bible codes, and it was really interesting.
That would be a cool conversation.
Yeah, it was, and I want to encourage people, if you want that book, don't write here for it,
yes,
but look online for the Grant Jeffrey Bible Codes book. It's excellent, very good book. I would recommend that over the Bible Codes book that it was written by Mike Drosden. It's a very interesting book. Anyway, so Grant Jeffrey, the late Bible Codes. Hey, listen, go to our website, Our website is BibleDiscoveryTV.com. BibleDiscoveryTV.com. There you will find us and all of the things related to our ministry. And also remember, you can call us at 724-733-8336 or 519-940-8338. Here's Call to Prayer. There is great recognition of God's ways and God's will when you consider the passages of Ezra. The men for the temple worship were lost tribe of Levites. But when Ezra moved in to motivate their responsibility, a test was given them. The call was made. Would they come or would they stay? The choice was theirs. There is great strength for living when we listen to the call of God upon our lives. When we follow the Lord, there is great reward, one in heaven, one on earth. And with that, we come to pray. Lord, teach me that you reward those who travel in your time and in your name. For our Strengthen Your Mind segment today, I have a great Bible quote for you. Where does the Bible actually say, "Now therefore, stand and see this great thing which the Lord will do before your eyes"? Now that's a generic quote, sort of. It's actually a quote that you can find with the New King James Version of the Bible. You can discover that quote. Go to BibleDiscoveryTV.com and click on Strengthen Your Mind. And when you click on Strengthen Your Mind, it'll take you to all the scriptures and you'll find it. Also wait for the discovery letter. But I want to talk to you about something really cool. Jesus Christ died on that cross, took your sin and took my sin and everybody's sin, and he rose from the dead on the third day. And he said today, if you choose him and give your life to him, then he will actually save your soul. He made a way for us to escape the pit of hell, and he did so through the gospel of Jesus Christ. Come to Jesus today and pray to him. Uncover the amazing jewels and discoveries of ancient archaeology and the Bible. Learn from Corey Hembry at Bible Discovery Seminary and College online. For more information, go to BibleDiscoveryTV.com and click on Bible Courses.